You don't have any audio.
Turn up the volume on my phone.
Where is it? There you go.
AMPX has all the best guitar amps ever made. All your favorite effects and cabinets. Fully programmable with lots of combinations. Fully analog amps and effects, plus the best of digital. AMPX.
Wait, one right.
Academy of Tone.
Welcome to Academy of Tone 110, still live from LA, and I'm sitting here with Rich in the garden. Our neighbors started to cut the grass. I hope you can hear something. We are doing this on the phone with my beautiful, what is it, 12 iPhone.
Yep.
You can hear the leaf blowers and whatnot.
But they told us they would stop very soon, so hopefully we'll have pristine audio to go with the high-end production for this week in a few minutes.
Yeah, and we are all about AMPX still being here. But before we go into the details of AMPX, we can talk a little bit about the NAMM 2022, which was a very special NAMM. Yeah, this leaf blower is kind of loud.
But the guys say it's okay.
It is okay.
So, yeah, we'll
Okay.
carry on.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, I can't hear a thing. Yeah. It sounds like a heavy metal voice to me. I'm just okay, distracted. Anyway, so what was the special thing about this NAMM? As we all know, the big companies pulled out because after the pandemic, everybody thought, you know, why wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a big booth at NAMM? And they made a lot of money during the pandemic, even having their best years, selling more guitars than ever. And why go to NAMM? And for us, the smaller brands, it was actually pretty good because people that came came to our booth because they were not as distracted as the years before with all the huge brands. So what was your impression of that NAMM?
Yeah, I think we were all very kind of apprehensive, a little bit nervous before going to the NAMM show because we were all getting a lot of mixed messages, you know, from everybody who was also going or not going. You know, people had heard different things from NAMM themselves. There were rumors about which brands would go, which brands would not go. And I think we decided pretty early on that for us as a smaller company, even if this is going to be a smaller show, we need that attention, right? Because we're a tiny company and we need people to find us kind of almost by coincidence sometimes.
Yeah.
When,
And I think even NAMM didn't really know how it's going to be because when we tried to register for our badges to get in, we could do this only like last minute in the evening before the show, which is very unusual. You know, usually the organization is like days ahead and everything. But hey, in the end, everything was running smoothly and it was way better than I expected it. I was very happy to get in contact with a lot of super great people. I mean, the monster YouTubers talking about Rick Beato, I met him. We had a nice talk. Of course, he was surrounded by a lot of other people, but it is always great to meet him. And I know that he's coming to Germany, guys, for the Germans. So we will probably see him in Germany, and I'm sure that I have some time with him, maybe even on the road. We are connected, and I know a lot of German acts, teens, to get some lessons. quit lessons and just by myself. So I'm self-taught mainly, and now he is giving me the kind of lessons with music theory that I was always looking for, and it's, you know, I just became his friend because you know, the way he talks about things is kind of where I was missing information, and it connects to where I am very easily, so I can follow the whole thing, besides the double harmonic minor scale and his weird style of arpeggio playing when he goes like spread triads and things like that. Yeah, you have to practice this. I have a very, very basic approach to these things, but still I get what he is talking about, and he connects to my world in a beautiful way. So this is why I just became a fan of Rick Beato, and yeah, one day we actually met, and I've been to his house and stuff like that. And yeah, for those who don't know, he's using the Iridium when he does the quick lessons. You know, he told me right here at NAMM. And then what other YouTubers you know, there was Red Charles, you know, his buddy Red Charles.
Yep.
And Paul Davis, and we saw Rabea, talked to him a little bit. To me, Rabea is, I met him once in, was it Finland? Somewhere in the Scandinavian countries, and we actually played on the stage together with a jam, you know, Mr. Afro, and he on a wide strat, me on a wide strat, having a little battle. It was so great, and taking, we had fun because I was in the hotel room preparing for our gig at night with Jennifer Batten, because she was at that guitar festival, Larvik Guitar Festival, Norway. I think it's Norway. And we both were sitting in my room, and out of the window we could see Rabea taking shots in this kind of very arty-farty hotel, and he didn't notice us until we made faces. So yeah, Rabea was there. Who else?
Mary Splendor, I had a good chat with, but I'm not sure if you met her. Perfecto de Castro was there, and you guys had a nice little jam, which is on Instagram if you want to watch it. Who else was there?
Let me think about my. Usually I scroll through my mobile phone.
That's the problem, we don't have that right now.
Pete Thorne was there.
Yes, Pete was there.
Yeah, Pete was there. And then Tosin Abazi was our neighbor. You know, Tosin, now he's going with the leaf blower directly into
our property.
Yeah. Okay. He closes the door. That's a good sign.
Kind of him, yeah.
Keep it low, keep it low, keep it low.
Did you mention Tim Pierce?
Tim Pierce, yeah. And who else? Well, basically all the big boys.
I thought it was really interesting because this year I was expecting a lot of smaller and also regional YouTubers to come, but it was actually mostly, you know, the really high level channels, the really sort of 500,000 subscribers plus. So it was an interesting mix, and a lot of the, you know, the sort of the gear reviewer types. Henning Pauli, for example, is probably the most kind of well-known one that we think of.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys decided not to come in the end.
Yeah. Well, and that was a very special mix of people.
Yeah.
But it's great to have the chance when fewer people are there. There's more room to talk, and which actually happened. And of course, we had good news with AMPX because that's an exciting product, and that's always worth the talk. Or people like them, they are curious. So you know, that's something cool. And besides that, there's also other things we can talk about, like Guitar Summit, who is coming to Germany, and maybe I can get some of the guys in my electric guitar night on the Saturday 9th of September, I guess it is, or 10th, at the Guitar Summit big concert in Mannheim, in the Mozart Saal. Here's another thing, talking about live gigs. I had the honor and pleasure to play with Larry Mitchell in the Marriott lobby, featuring Neil Turbin, Anthrax on vocals, the tall guy with a beautiful voice. Ronnie Lee, also AMP1 user, and she uses the Mercury, and she has very good relationship also with Mike Soldano. But when she travels, she goes with the AMP1, and we actually might play this Friday in San Diego.
Yep.
I have an invitation for. Do you know any Led Zeppelin tunes? And I said, yeah, okay. There's Immigrant Song, Whole Lotta Love, of course, Rock and Roll, Ba-da-da, Ba-da-da, Kashmir, and a few more. So, yeah, I have a few things that I can still do during this week here in LA. Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Paul says this episode of Academy of Tone is sponsored by John Deere lawnmowers.
Yeah, definitely. John Deere is a very powerful company, and they make great sound, but not in our direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Robert says, yeah, screw the pandemic and COVID-19, it killed NAMM. Do you think NAMM has been killed or just a little bit wounded? And do you think it will come back the way it was before? How do you see it based on what just happened?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good question. I'm posing myself as well. Especially having the Frankfurt experience, which means Frankfurt going down to the point where it's not existing anymore. So I think we have to see two aspects. One aspect is the music industry in general, and a business-to-business trade show, which NAMM is. It is like companies rent spaces on a fair, on a trade show, and display their products to distributors worldwide. And this has been the case with the Frankfurt show, and of course here the NAMM show. And at this point NAMM is still the biggest one, but problem we have is everything goes online. And now the thing is, why do dealers order stuff on a trade show if they can do it online? Of course, a huge thing is missing meeting people. That's the biggest thing. I love it. I'm in this industry for so long, and going to trade shows is the thing. It's so many new collaborations, many new relationships that all happen there, not in the internet. I mean, in the internet, things happen as well, beautiful connections, but if you talk to somebody in person, it takes me 1 minute or two if I am having a feeling of, yeah, this is going on, this leads me to some new relationship with something, or no, it's not my type of guy, or it is, you know. And if you do the whole thing like online, there's a lot of more filters involved. So you're sitting in different rooms, there's a lot of emotion that is not transported in a way, and the interaction is not the same like being on a trade show.
Yeah.
So back to the question, did COVID hit the whole thing? I think COVID, that forced all of us to do everything online even more, and then with the companies having more success doing online instead of personal meetings, it kind of, in German it would be Brandbeschleuniger, which means like fire, more fire. It changes everything even quicker. So the online thing versus the trade show thing, and then the business changing too, from everything in person to more online. That's a big thing. So that being said, there's a general tendency that is going on and was already going on, but the COVID thing put a lot of extra energy towards that big change. And I believe NAMM or some other shows have to come up with a new concept, which now happened in Germany. Since Frankfurt is down, the Guitar Summit is a more specialized show, just for guitars and bass, and it is consumer related. So the focus is different. There are beautiful seminars, there's beautiful concerts, so the buyers, the people can come and can have hands-on the guitars and amps, hear and see the stars, and the result is different from a trade show that is business to business.
Yeah.
And I think here in the US, they have to come up with a new direction as well for the future. I mean, it's still okay. It might get on that certain level. But what I have seen in Frankfurt is when the big ones, Fender, Gibson, pulled out of the show, Marshall, the show went down, and then suddenly it really crushed.
Yeah.
And here it's like we are the same thing, and maybe we will see the same effect a little bit more stabilized, which I would hope so, because I desperately love NAMM and all these kind of shows. But then something needs to happen so we get to a level where it's still attractive for the future.
So do you think allowing more consumers in, more end users, is the answer?
That could be one answer, but it has to be done with a really generic concept. You can't simply do one thing and believe that will do the job, because NAMM is still exactly what it used to be in the past, and Mannheim, the Guitar Summit started kind of from a new point and started there. I think we play some ad music while our leaf blower is working hard. Oh no, he stopped. Okay, I'm ready for something in case it's getting too worse. Yeah, they're going around the corner.
Yeah. So what do you think NAMM 2023 is going to look like?
Well, personally, I believe it will be similar to this one. If it's not as good as this one, then it's definitely on the way down, which I regret. But that's what I experienced in Frankfurt. It is like this. And then if it's going a little bit down, then it's steep decline. Yeah. And if it's getting better again, which I personally doubt, then it will stay.
Yeah. But again, you were positively surprised by this one, and I think also the 2023 event it's kind of a transitional show again. Mm-hmm. So that one is planned to happen in April, isn't it? So it's kind of, 9 months from now, and then in 2024, I think they're hoping it will be back to normal, whatever
January
normal is. Yeah.
And here's my comment: we are in June in LA. Of course, I'm wearing this, but it's like our springtime in Germany. I love LA in January because we are freezing back home in Germany. They have sunshine. Hey, today they don't even have sunshine. So, well, anyway. So I was a big fan of NAMM in January, and I hope the whole thing would kind of get back, but I have my doubts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, it's nothing that I wish, but somebody has to really understand where the world is, where the market is, what is actually needed, and then come up with proper messages, solutions, events that gives people what they want.
Yeah.
And if the dealers are not coming to the event anymore, somebody else, because the guitar players are still there. You know, during the pandemic, so many people picked up the guitar. So there is the excitement. The industry is there, but the gathering needs to be different. And by the way, a little comment about the vintage guitar show in Costa Mesa. I had a very brief drive over with Thomas Walbier from Number One, which is like one of the big, or maybe the biggest German vintage dealer.
And this was a show for vintage guitars that happened the same weekend as NAMM, right?
Yeah. And it was Costa Mesa in some hangar. And Joe Bonamassa was there the first day. I wasn't there, because I was at our booth. So the good stuff has all been bought by Joe, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I could see some leftovers, like the only thing that I was tempted, but I didn't go for it. It was some 50s or 60s Telecaster neck for $6,000. So that's a surprise kit. Well, if it's the neck of your life,
Yeah.
then
maybe.
it's okay. But and then I bumped into somebody that had a tube replex from Houston Kettner, which was my idea, and I designed with Bernd Schneider back in 1995. And then the guys came up, oh, this is a Mark II. And what are the Joe says, I think, or somebody said, maybe Joe, maybe somebody else, the Mark I sound better. And I said, hey guys, no, because the only thing that is different is the fixed resistors on the Mark I have been exchanged for trim pots, and they put a light in, and that doesn't affect the tone. So there's a lot of mojo going on, which more lights is not vintage, you know? Yeah, anyway. But I had some very nice conversations with people there about different things. They had some beautiful amps there and a few guitars that were still interesting. But for me, the good thing is I'm not tempted anymore. I bought my stuff decades ago for prices that were still reasonable, like a good custom shop instrument these days. And that's anyway, I had a few nice conversations with people about, you know, the AMPX. I have to show that because I've done the same thing for an AMP1. What's it, the Porter Flex, which is this bass combo where the electronics can be flipped around, and then you go and transport it, and then when you set it up again, you just have two of these, what is it, butterflies, locks, and then you open it again and you are ready to play. I've done an AMP1 combo prototype for myself, just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And so this was a nice little trip at the Costa Mesa. What was it, Vintage World or the Vintage Show?
Yeah.
That Vintage Show.
Okay. We have Sean Pierce Johnson in the chat, of course, who was also at NAMM and says he's editing the video that we made right now, and it's sounding pretty great.
Aha, so Sean Pierce. Of course, after NAMM, he was on our list to visit. I think we did it like Monday,
Yeah, the day after NAMM, we went straight there pretty much.
So hardworking BluGuitar.
Yeah.
Heroes work here. It's all in my phone. We show all that stuff next week because I have hundreds of pictures, and now they are in my phone, which is kind of streaming us now here.
Yeah.
And he had the pleasure to be like the first one. I dialed in a metal tone like in 5 minutes because the software is still under construction. And well, you can see his video whenever he's finished. If he's working on it, it won't be long. And yeah, talking about things that happen, it is every day. Oh, see, this is a leaf from our garden. We get a new software, and this is the preset switching here. And if I press one switch twice, it turns into the B preset. Well, on each knob or on each switch, we have now 2 presets. So you can go straight here, or you double click and you go to this. So this, if I use this as a tap tempo, you know, slow or fast, I hope you can see that. This gives you the option. This could be, it's all freely assignable. This is kind of your tap tempo right now. Presets, and then you can have 10 accessible presets. And this is clean hall, and this is some other clean. I can't see because I'm maybe I look like this. And this is crunch hall, and this is crunch effects, and this is vintage, and this is vintage space and gain, you know, stuff like that. So I think it's very practical. And then again, I just can hit one of the buttons and I'm right in the booster section or in the drive section or pedal section. This is asking me the question, is this actually pre? I have this. Is this a pedal? Oh, now it's a modulation pedal on bypass. I can dial in, there's a CE1, there's a whatever. We go into my beautiful tube replex, and then you see the parameters. I can scroll through different delays when I'm pre and post and blah blah blah. So this is, you know, evolving on a weekly or daily basis nearly.
Yeah, and it was during the show as well. Just to quickly answer Max Carton's question,
Yeah.
how much does the AMPX weigh? It weighs 3 kilograms for
Yeah.
Europeans, which is about 6.5 pounds for Americans, but it weighs a bit more when you put the wings in, I guess.
Yeah, the thing is, maybe you can see now, these are the wings, little wings, and I can kind of, is this, can you see? I should show you from the other side. And these can be slided like this, so you can have an expression pedal or some other pedal mounted to that. And all these kind of Schlitze, what is this?
Slits.
Slits, that's a good word. Slits are measured from the typical sizes of stomp boxes, like there's the Hammond A, B, and the classic sizes, so you don't have to drill your holes. And on this prototype, this is still steel, and steel is too heavy. We will exchange this for aluminium to save weight. And I don't know how you describe these Rändelschrauben. What kind of this?
I don't know how you describe
This kind of screws you can tighten with your hands, so you don't have to use a screwdriver. So you simply slide it out and then you fix it with your hands.
Yeah.
And then the AMPX becomes your pedal board. And yeah, as you can see, those two cables, they are not stock. This is for our sound designing purposes. So we have access to many things you don't have.
Yes.
Which you wish. You wish, but it's only for me.
Yeah.
And just to make this little thing clear, you know, some other modern devices like the Kemper or the Neural DSP, things like that, they capture other product sounds. With the AMPX, I can recreate those sounds, and because I'm doing it myself, I'm having a way more complex, I can do way more complex things than just one test signal that tries to get one setting of a certain amp the same as it is.
Yeah.
And by concept, this is not possible with the AMPX. And therefore, I have to spend a lot of time to create a model of something. It could be anything that we know, any specific amp, or anything I have in my head, which is so exciting because I can now design my own amps wherever I am, together with people, alone. I have my whole workshop with me, with this amp, and maybe a laptop software.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my dream comes true here.
Yeah.
As a sound designer.
Yeah, talking about the sound design, we've got a few questions about this stuff already. Sele says, will there be tremolo effects, harmonic bias, opto-trem in there, and will they be analog or digital?
They will be analog, and here comes the best, because we have so many controls within the circuitry that are level components. And what is tremolo? It's level components and it's bias. We have maybe some guys have seen it on the show already. In all the amp models, there's tons of biases for each stage and stuff like that. And what we can do is we can digitally create a waveform that is as weird as we want it to be, and even interactive if we need that. And so we can create the tremolo just like in a real power amp stage, just like on the good old Fenders. And I had a very quick test that it is possible, but of course all these, you know, this is sound design at highest level, and we have to get there and spend a lot of time to investigate what's the magic about the real bias trem effects. But I'm very positive that we get there. Our colleague Kai is flying back to Germany now.
Safe trip.
Okay, and this is the time we say, bye bye. Okay, anyway, so Kai is leaving, and this was the advertising for whatever. I found this card here in a store, which was I was excited about.
Target, we have to give them a shout out for a great supply of birthday cards, which you would never find in Germany. I don't think.
They are too far out for us.
Yeah. And this is like that's the AMPX of birthday cards for me.
Yeah.
It's so well designed. It does everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it has lights, it has sound, it has the standard paper, and it's a big surprise for people that like cats.
Exactly. Questions about the effects. Is it 16 or 8 core? Because apparently you've been quoted saying both.
Yeah. No, it is 16. When we started the study 2 years ago, we were on 8 core. And then I thought, you know what? We make this a non-compromise thing. And we asked for the biggest chip. We actually had to redesign because its power consumption is a bit more, cooling and stuff like that. But this project is so huge for us. I tried to get the most powerful chip for us available. So we went 16 core, just in case. And then we have like the 5 blue boxes or speaker emulations and the effects and the control. And the good thing about having so many cores is if there's anything going on like power drop or anything, this thing will be stable like a tube set up. And there's no loading time, there's no switching time. I mean, the dry signal is always there. I think it will be even better than your pedalboard constellation, because having everything under one hood and control it gives us so much more potential for optimizing. I think this is, from a technical point of view, it's the best that I can think of. Not talking that any other products are not good, but it's just because it's kind of all integrated and all connected, and 16 cores, so we can leave one just for the interface, and that core is boring for stuff like that. And then we have other cores that can do independently stuff. And now comes the magic answer to questions we had on the last live stream. Will it be possible that like the delay has a spillover? Yes, because of the 16 cores. One core, even when you switch from one preset to the next one, there could be the endless reverb tail going on, which is produced by that one core.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great news for a lot of people out there, because it's a limitation with lots of other devices. Having tails, having spillovers between presets with effects like that. So that's great. And I just learned that the same time as you guys, because I didn't know.
Yeah. I had to talk with Julian, our software engineer, to make sure that the structure is capable of doing that.
Yeah.
The way he designs the software. That's why I didn't really answer last time, but it's we talked and he says it's possible.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, no problem. That's good news.
We got a question about the power soak and the power drive, and also remote controllers, because obviously with the AMP1s you need something like the Remote 1 in order to take full advantage of the power soak options. What's the story with that and the AMPX?
Well, basically I reduced it to one control, which is now called the power drive, which is this one. And what's happening there, we assign that knob to internal functions that bias and change the analog circuitry, mainly on the power amp side, of course, to behave like a hot driven tube amp, which we all, or most of us, love. And there's of course a sweet spot for everything. Some people want it not too much, some people love it just a touch, other people want it really. I'm that kind of guy. I love power drive. I always loved. When I recorded in the studio, I started from power amp at 10 and then brought in pedals, and everybody. I had burning Marshalls in the studio. Similar place, actually, like the house where we are at, Peter Hayo, Perky Park Studios. Now in Berlin, used to be in Bexbach. And for the Germans, Hayo, you don't know Heidi Klum. She's that fashion model.
Yeah.
And Thomas Hayo, Peter's brother, is the guy that is always on the show. And I know Thomas Hayo since he was maybe 12. So famous people. He was just the brother of Peter. Peter was the studio owner. And here's the story. I recorded a lot. My Beauty of Simplicity has mainly been recorded in that studio. And one day I played in the studio 100-watt plexi, of course, loud power drive, because it sounded so great. And then after a while, you know, I had the rig, the amp even sitting in the next room. So I just had a long guitar lead, and we're listening to the studio minute, and I thought while playing, like, this kind of gets a bit squashed now. And then I turned around through the window and I saw the smoke waves. So the transformer started already burning. And then we had to slide the window open and throw it in the garden because we were afraid that it would kind of lit the whole studio then.
Yeah.
So that's power drive.
Yep. No more burning amps.
Yeah, no more burning amps and easy access. One more explanation to that thing. We all come from power soak, because this is the tradition of loud tube amps tamed with a load resistor. Then people found out that the load resistor alone is killing some of the aliveness of the system. Then they try to make a reactive load, which isn't actually, because anything reactive is only partially reactive, and it's not the same like a real speaker. So I still prefer a tube amp and even an AMP1, not so much the AMPX, but the AMPX too. But we learned, anyway, that's later. But any classic amp should be connected to a real speaker, because this is the most alive scenario for an amp. And the AMPX has the same kind of current feedback and interaction and stuff like that, like the traditional tube amps. So it is the best way to work with a proper guitar speaker. But power drive has no side effects like a resistor or a power soak has. There's no heat, and even more important, there is no sound difference. We already had the AMP1's power soak with not affecting the current feedback load interaction from the speaker to the power amp stage, which is superior to a classic power soak. Just as a hint. So this AMP1 is already kind of almost there. With the power drive, we make it even easier, because the power soak requires a lot of knobs, which means how many watts do you want, how much drive do you need, and so you have to bring both in a certain. Kai is just coming back. He probably wants to stay in America, or he will miss his flight, or he forgot his toothpaste.
Where's the car key?
The car key? Oh, that's a good one. Rich asked, because I was driving. I ride by.
Yeah, so while Thomas goes to find the car key, let's get a little bit of a poll going among you guys. One of the big discussions that we kept having with people at NAMM was, are you going to be someone who wants the AMPX with everything built into one box, or do you think that the AMP1 with a pedal board or with other solutions is going to be the right thing for you? Write your comment down there in the chat. AMPX or AMP1 plus pedals. We'll tally it up at the end of the show and we'll see which more people want, because that was a question I was just saying that came up so much over the show, and I think we will be touching on a lot.
Yeah.
Is AMPX going to be for everyone, or is just an AMP1 with a few pedals of choice going to be enough for them?
A lot of people will be super happy with khakis. Come on, I have. Yeah, this is a beautiful. Safe travels to Germany. And this, by the way, was important because the case with all the video gear of our cameraman was in the car, and you know, yeah. So
Yeah.
and we will see all these guys back next week. And so the next live stream, by the way, will be back in Germany in the regular studio. So we have more options there. So this again is one thing. Think first, then take the Uber.
Yeah. Well, it's good that Kai did, because he would have had a problem otherwise. Yeah.
Especially Lucas. Poor Lucas. Anyway, we're not going into this. We'll tell you a story next week, as we have more stories to tell.
Oh yeah.
But back to the power drive. I think this is the most elegant way to get what we actually want. The hot-driven sound without any side effects and minimal volume adjustments. And just one comment back to the AMP1. You know, the AMP1 has the same sonic quality as the AMPX or any other tube amp. That's what I try to prove all the time. The matter of difference is only if you like the settings. So if a Mesa Boogie is a good amp to you, you think that's a better amp than a Fender. Is it a better amp? Well, for the guy that loves the tone of a Mesa Boogie, and the guy that loves the good old Fender sounds, he probably says, yeah, the Mesa is not as good as my good old Fender. So, but these all tube amps, they have, to me, the same sonic quality, and the voicing and what is coming out of the circuitries is what makes it better for you as a player. But on a technical level, that's the level these sounds are created on, and that's similar. That's actually most of the time the same. In the end, it's now up to your personal taste and the voicing and the spices, how to create that, what is better. Or AMP1 and both of them, they are already at that level. If we talk about Mercury or Iridium and even the Silver, some people rave about it in a way. It's like, it's better than my tube amp. Well, I think it's not better. You like it better than your whatever tube amp you played before, because it gives you what you want. And if those don't give you what you want, AMPX is the next option on that kind of thing. And then it comes to, do I actually want all the whistles and bells and effects? With an AMP1, you have an easy life. Plug in, universal power, there's tons of power, you know, it doesn't get any louder than that. If you need more, you don't have a gig anymore if you need more power than an AMP1 gives you, I believe. I mean, there is no exception except for Uli. And Uli John Roth, I modified him in AMP1 to be 230 watts, like one of his amps is producing, and that's even possible. And I took this into the equation for AMPX. So power, forget it, we have it. Tone, we have it in portions, in like styles with the Mercury and the Iridium, and now with the AMPX, theoretically anything. And this will be proven over the next years as I will create different amp sounds, like on the AMP1 platform. I will create those on the AMPX platform, and it will be growing. And then you can criticize me once I release a whatever super reverb, and then we can talk if my super reverb reference that is from 1964 blackface is not as good as yours. And then I would be interested that we meet and that I get a better one, because maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Mine is pretty good. Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
Cascading gain stages.
Yeah.
Will people be able to stack more than one drive pedal in front of the AMPX?
Well, there is a boost stage, which is all analog, that can create gain. And there is a drive, which means overdrive stage, that can create a lot of gain. That's gain stacking already in pedals. And then you have your amp thing. So you basically have like two drive pedals into an overdriven amp. And this is as much gain as nobody needs. It's too much gain. But the beauty is, it's like 500 horsepowers. You don't have, if you put it all up, it's, you know, you will be dead in a second. The same thing with everything on 10. So by software, I will reduce it to something. Like if you go on 10 with your overdrive pedal, I will probably tame the amp a little bit or something, because I don't want to have people going 10-10 and then have a self-oscillation system here that will be sent back for repairs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get there, but it's all kind of at hand, it's all at tap, and I decide how much I give you from each stage before we all crash. So that's but it's part of the concept. So we have kind of traditional boost drive pedal and high gain overdrive amps, and how much more gain you need, it's too much already.
Yeah. Let's talk about what exactly can be stored in presets, because there was a lot of questions about that at NAMM. There's questions coming in now, particularly talking about, can you store EQ settings in presets?
Sure.
But what else can be stored?
Well, any parameter of these knobs, any gain, volume. Let me show you.
Yeah, pick it up.
I pick it up. So let me show you. This knob here only helps you to have a quick access for your amp type. So like this is a category switch now. So I can go from a, shall I go closer?
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of the clean category and the vintage and blah blah blah. When I'm accessing this switch, I have all the different choices here. Let me show you. And I go through the different types of amps. So this is my vintage, and there's my super reverb, and there's my tweed deluxe, and blah blah blah. I'm in the category of clean. Each category can have like 99 clean amps, and the next category can have like 99 vintage amps and classic. So these are actually not channels, these are categories. So you have the feeling of a classic amp, and you will be able to have your favorite clean amp there, your favorite vintage amp there, and that's, you decide which ones these are. So, but back to the question, what is stored? It's like, is the boost on, is it off, which boost it is, which setting of the boost it is, the gain knob and the whatever tweak knob of the boost. Let's see if we have a boost here. We go into, there's a compressor or boost. This one has only one gain, but there are boost pedals with a tone control and stuff like that. So all the settings of the pedal, of the boost pedal, will be stored. All the settings of the drive pedal will be stored. All the settings of your delay pedal or chorus will be stored. All the settings of the delay pedal will be stored. All the settings of your reverb pedal will be stored. And this is only the pedals in front of the amp. Then all your amp settings will be stored. Then all your special amp tweak things like power soak will be stored. Power drive. I have to learn my own words. Um, and then, you know, even if you have a special bias setting for your hot driven Marshall that I give you here in the X control section, that can be stored into your preset as well. So you have one preset that is whatever, more cold, one is more hot, and then you make two sounds out of this one amp. Um, and then we come to the post section, which means all your modulation effects in stereo, uh, chorus with speed, blah blah blah, uh, ec- delay again, the whole 9 yards, time, feedback, tone, volume, flutter, whatever we offer as parameters here will be stored. And then we come to the blue box, and this is, for instance, a thing that there's mic position. We know from the blue box there is a dynamic function which is new, dynamic IRs, gives you a better feel when playing through full range speakers. Then panorama, which means where do I place the sound. If I go stereo, I can have like a V30 on the left side, a greenback on the right one, and a G1275 in the middle, and blah blah blah. You can, you know, all that, and of course the volume. Then we have a reverb on the post effects that can be stored. Everything can be stored. You know, all the knobs on this amp are connected to the brain, are connected to the DSP or to our controller. And so we can decide by software what we give to you guys and what is not your cup of tea because it's too subtle or it's confusing. For me, my first album was called The Beauty of Simplicity, and that's part of my concept in life. Reduce to the max, make small products, not big products. Have all the stuff that you really need, but if you want to become a sound designer and developer, maybe buy an XFX because they give you more. It's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's all cool. But I'm a player that wants to offer you a lot, and especially get this kind of parameters in a way that people at different levels can handle it. The ordinary guitar player, you know, they shouldn't even see stuff like that. They close the flap, they have their classic master volume, reverb, and delay and modulation bits, and they scroll through the presets, or they can probably buy a set of tones with 10 presets on the buttons. Jimi Hendrix, how many presets had Jimi Hendrix? Well, he didn't have 0 presets, but he had, you know, a Univibe, a Wah-Wah, and maybe an Octavia, and a cranked Marshall. So if you have buttons for each, you know, even filling the first row of it, and then, you know, think of that this way. And of course, we know there are top 40 guys that needs hundreds of presets,
Yeah.
which is also possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about all the different effects that you can run at the same time in a preset, but can you actually run 2 amps together in a preset? Is that not possible?
No, because it's an analog AMPX, it's analog. We don't have like a block. We physically have to build a second amp. And this thing is maxed out already. Again, reduced to the max. There is no room for a second amp inside the AMPX. There's room for a second, third and fourth and fifth cabinet because that's part of our processor. Piece of cake. But physically an analog design requires the parts for an amp. And this is all on the PCB. And this is, the room is filled with components. If you want to have 2 amps, buy 2 AMPXs. It does MIDI, and I'm sure you can connect it so you can have, I don't even, I'm sure you can have too many options.
Yeah. A little thing, again, going back to the AMP1s and the progression to the AMPX. So everyone who owns an AMP1 will know that there's a row of custom controls on the side of those products. And obviously the AMPX doesn't have those, and that's because it doesn't need them, right? Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I designed the AMP1, I had a specific amp sound or channel in mind. And I thought, from my experience, there are players that like a certain type of amp. Let's have a GCM 800, for instance. And then some people like it more old school, 70s, 60s sounding, being a hot-driven plexi kind of thing. And other people wanted that hair metal 80s tone. And on the other hand, if I would just offer like one setting without the custom controls, I would need the tone stack on the M1 to dial in the character. And then I would have a problem to have another channel using the same settings of that tone stack here, the master tone stack, and that limits. In the AMP1, the custom control is giving me the option to predetermine what style of settings my tone stack on that amp would have, and have that kind of a flat setting of the 3-band EQ, and then do the same thing determining my other channel what kind of setting that would be, like a more old school or more modern voiced setting, and thereby I have more flexibility, and I get to sounds that are not even possible with that tone stack, because that tone stack is designed to be more to get the nuances. Well, it's very effective. Nuances is the wrong word. Is to adjust to the overall world you are in, which means the stage. And if you are the guy that wants no treble, then put it to 0. It's fine to have 0 treble on an AMP1. It's not a problem. Different kind of tone stack. On the other hand, yeah, this custom control feature made the AMP1 a 4-channel amplifier, and most of the guys that want that flexibility could find a way how to get there. There are a few exceptions, because if you want that extreme and that extreme, then the knobs are kind of there's a certain limitation to that concept. But I found, just for myself, I can use all the 4 channels, and I could replace my Triumph with 6 channels with it, just by using the boost. The boost and the 4 channels on the AMP1 replaced my 6 channels in the Triumph. So I was happy about that, and I'm still am. That's the point. Hey, don't get me wrong. I will still play with my AMP1 if I don't bring an AMPX, because the AMP1, for me at least, has my sounds, and my attempt will only be to get those sounds into the AMPX and my whole pedal board. So this is the next level here, and then you will see me gig with this one, and then my pedal board is history, which is another weird thought. But you know, I've been there already. Like, when was we did release AMP1 in 2014? Yeah, when I had the prototypes. Similar situation like that. Actually, we showed the AMP1 in 2014. That's that long. In April at the Frankfurt show. I've officially founded the company in February. So 2 months later, we've been on the show having prototypes that actually blow up on stage. I had a great moment in Frankfurt, playing with the Go Music or some other artists, doing another break on a brick in the wall solo. Sounded killer. I loved it, and then just by the end of the everything cool. I made it all through the solo, and just at the last bit, bomb! I could see my amp 1 was blowing up. That's the nature of prototypes, can happen. And I said, this is it, because I knew there was no chance to replace it. But it was the end of that concert anyway. And then it took the rest of the year to finalize the product, and then we started to ship in Germany shortly before Christmas. So I have the same kind of hope for where we are now. And then the beginning of the year after, we shipped internationally to the UK and other countries with the ramp-up plan, making small amounts, double-checking everything is right, and then going into larger quantities.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about your pedal board becoming obsolete, your pedal board, of course, has the Replex, one of your mainstays. That will, of course, be in the AMPX right from the start. I mean, you guys will have already heard it. What about other delays? What about specifically something like the Echo Rec, which people are talking about here?
Yeah, the Binson you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have to look into these. I tell you, it's not a problem to recreate those. That's just a thing, but it takes time, and I want to do this as good as I do. This is this is like the flagship, and I shouldn't do a quick Echo Rec and say, oh, here's your Echo Rec. Give me time. This is all on my wish list, and we probably do a wish list that we share. It's kind of what a live stream is for. So if I know what people want, and by the way, the Echo Rec is on my wish list too. We look into that, but before we do that one, I think there's other things. We have to have a few more amps coming out first, and with the Replex, which I need for myself to double check if that's if the whole thing really replaces my pedal board, and maybe I need to do some tweaks while being on stage and thinking, oh. But you get a lot. Echo Rec will be coming one day. I cannot promise anything, but it's on my wish list as well. So.
And so with the AMPX, I'm guessing that with tape delays, we would actually have the possibility to do things with multiple tape heads, wouldn't we? All that is possible.
Sure, easy peasy.
That's exciting.
Every factor, like multiple heads, the weirdest modulation and the weirdest even analog wear of tape, we can reproduce. On the digital domain, we already have our own algorithms. Some modeling companies would love to get those. But we, the analog guys, we know even how to create digital algorithms that sound better than the stuff on the market. And I'm talking the leaders in the industry. Because we know what's so important about it. And it's not like, oh, I make this kind of saturation curve and we are done. We know it's more complex. And since we know that, we wrote our own digital algorithms how to get a real tape saturation. That's not just a saturation. And we also have that kind of tube clip on the digital domain better than I know it from stuff that I have been working on in the past and from some of the other things. I'm very proud of that because my digital engineer understands both sides, and that helps. He comes from the digital end, but we were working together for a while, and he now understands what makes all the difference, and so we could bring that into the digital world as well. And now what's the benefit of that? If we create a tape saturation or a tube saturation in a certain stage that we need to emulate for our tube effects, and we are talking only about an effect signal because there is your head that picks up the tape, there's some tape saturation going on, but then that head that comes to a tube stage and maybe gets squashed again in a tube way. We do that on the digital domain because we are time-based, no problem with latency, but we get the tone right. Yeah, and that's why we need time, you know, because we have to analyze deeply what's going on into, or on an echo rack, or maybe on a Roland, which is transistors. There are differences, and all these differences matter. I'm happy that we have the platform to do that. We don't have the time, or it will take time. That's what I'm saying, guys. This is coming, but it's a long project. It will take years to complete the whole thing, but then it will be right. And of course, you have to pay for that, because if I would go for the fast one, oh, this accurate, make some nice pictures and have a better screen that shows you how beautiful it looks, but it sounds crappy, that's not my way. I try to make the real tone. It's called tone innovation. First tone. If there's no tone, forget it. Tone first, and then we bring it to the innovative level. And therefore, this kind of detail matters. And we are able to do this on both domains, but that's why the blueprints, whatever sounds we create for pedals or amps, take so much time. And we have to learn our own process on that platform. It's kind of like a racing driver that gets a new car that has too many horsepowers and a brake like that. I mean, we have to test drive it, and we have to, you know, and then we have to improve our workflow with it, and how this is where the cables come from, that you could see. It's like we can measure our stages internally, the analog stages internally, like just like measuring on tube circuitries, and then we can A/B it, and then, but one day we will have so much experience. It's like a guitar player, like we simply pick up a guitar and we think a key, and then we know already what chords are in there and what scales we can play over it. And it's the same thing with sound design. We will learn. This is a learning process. At the moment, we are strumming our A minor chord, knowing all the rest, but step by step. And then the more we learn, the faster we get.
Yeah. Paul says, can we also get the plate reverb better than the industry leaders?
In theory, yes, but here's a thing, you know. I know Ralf Kessler, Quantec reverbs, and a good old friend of mine now living in Hamburg, Germany. His nickname is Klön, and he is a reverb designer. I'm talking reverb designer, not somebody that tweaks some pre-programmed algorithm and says this is it. I have high respect for getting stuff on that level. So I don't see this at the very beginning. At this point, we have plate reverb, hall reverb. We have 2 plate reverbs. We have room reverb, and they are good quality. And I think with adjusting the parameters, and we can go deep into that, we can get to a very decent level. I'm not saying the best, but it will be, for me, at the beginning, good enough, and we can do all the tricks that we need. I'm not just talking shimmer reverb, because that's a different algorithm, feedbacks, octave, blah blah blah. But the classic stuff we can get at a good quality level. And I think my job is to make it suitable for the guitar, because these reverbs have been designed as a good reverb for general purposes. And then as time goes on, we could maybe start a crazy project like that. But that depends on resources and having an expert for that. Mm-hmm. If we would have our engineer doing that, it's a whole universe. And it's not that he's a bad programmer or that he doesn't understand reverb. No. Reverb programming is something for experts. It's like everybody can tweak an amp and change the capacitor and make it whatever, your turn your Fender into a boogie kind of thing. I mean, I've done this at the age of 13 or 15 and created my bluegie out of a shitty something, you know, copying a boogie. And that's the same thing with like algorithm. On that level, it's easy, but to really create a circuitry that works, or to create a reverb model from scratch, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if everything is, you can kind of buy your whatever pizza bread and put some topics on it and pretend you are a chef. But you know, Mama from Italia, she knows how to massage, you know, for hours. Bum 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 bum, slaps the kids with it, and then puts it in the oven, and then she has this kind of rotten stuff in the corner, and this fresh bell peppers here, puts it, and that's the magic mix out of her experience, because she's doing that for ages, and that's what is required in reverbs, because reverbs is very complex.
Yeah. Something else that I think is very complex and is also a new thing is something that's been asked about also a lot in the comments, and that is the concept of dynamic IRs, which you've talked about a lot. Can you explain a little bit how those differ from the standard IRs that the guys will already know?
Yeah. Well, at this point, I'm not, maybe I'm finished, maybe I'm not. I just had an idea out of the necessity, out of the vision, how to get to the next level with direct recording. So the problem about standard IRs is an IR gives you a very complex filter of a speaker, which is kind of a frequency curve with tons of hills and valleys and looks like the Alps panorama on a frequency spectrum. And this has not been possible with analog electronics because it's too complex. You would need hundreds of filters and forget it. So that's the beauty of an IR, and that's already a lot. Nobody was able to do that before that technology, impulse response technology or convolution that's the algorithm convolution. The problem there is the filter is fixed, it doesn't move, and the whole dynamic comes from anything that is before that IR, which is the amplifier you're playing, and then you create overtones, and then the amp gets pushed, and that, but it's all kind of like a grid, and this dynamic thing is pushed towards that grid, and that grid doesn't move. Well, and it's kind of filtered in a static way, so the whole it brings that kind of dynamic wobbly frequency mix, kind of, you know, like the sea with all the complex waves, but then there's kind of one flat grid, and this is shaping it in a certain way. We want more of this, and that's reduced, that's kind of in the filter, less of this and more of this, and this is where we get a bit more out. But in the reality, a speaker, the membrane is moving, and even the housing, but let's just stay with the membrane. The whole thing is moving. It's not like it's stiff. A speaker is a lousy component. It does something, which is magic, and it does something different when it's driven at the limit. So, at least something dynamic happens, we can agree on. And I thought that kind of dynamic that I could feel with the speaker was always missing when I was playing IRs. In the Blue Box, in our own simple speaker IR loader with the fixed IRs of my cabinets, I already put in an analog circuitry that does something with the signal to make it a bit more alive. But I thought, let's bring this to the next level, and we created an algorithm that kind of makes any IR that we load into AMPX a bit more dynamic, kind of takes that grid and changes the whole thing, you know, like, okay, like the obvious things that would happen with speakers. They bark a bit more when they get louder from stuff like that. When you ever heard an AMPX SVT, the good old 8, 10 cabinet, and the early ones are the best ones because they're the loudest ones. The bass sound is always like, and then when you hit the speakers hard, that's music. So, and we have something of that thing that dynamically triggered with the signal in the dynamic, and then there's what is creating the it is a few ingredients as usual. What you have, the usual ingredients is kind of EQ, saturation, compression, and then mix it to your Italian mama. I think that tastes good thing. This is what we've done, and I spent literally an hour only to dial it in. It was kind of prepared like ingredients on the kitchen table, and it's like, okay, a little bit of that and that. Okay, we have to next, because NAMM Show is this is what I've done the week before NAMM, and it was actually really good. But I have to revisit it. So all I'm saying here is it works. It made me happy at first glance. Maybe that's it. If not, I know what to do to max it out. And the good news here is we don't have to create new IRs. We can load any standard IR, our own or third party, and make this more dynamic. That's where we are at now. Future options, we can go for something like dynamic triggering of different IRs. Like if you have a electric piano, like one of those Yamaha. Remember when the grand piano tones came out in the 80s or whenever, the Clavinova it's called.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have the real thing at home, and you can still practice Poor Elise. But the thing is, the touch sensitivity, how fast you hit this, the key, is how fast the hammer, and that measures the speed, and that's kind of the dynamics of the piano, and that in a sampling piano triggers different samples. There is one sample for soft, and there is one for torture. I hit it very hard, and then there's some in between, and then if you have like 10 steps, it's already a lot, or maybe 20, and then something like that is also in my head. I haven't tried it out, but the potential is there. We have 16 cores. I'm not worried about this, but at the moment I'm happy with what we've got, which means we can use any standard IR and feel right. It's like, hey, now direct tones become more musical, and that's good news. And yeah, there are more options in the future. If they are groundbreaking again, we'll see. But just the fact that we have some more dynamics going direct is such a relief for myself. I rely on dynamics so much, and I just put in my dynamic factor from 0 to 7, and I thought, man, yeah. We will do some videos on that in the future, of course. So Academy of Tone will show you the progress of AMPX and all the details, because there's so many, and everything needs to be kind of finalized. So maybe we have every week episode a few more things that we can show. This is how it will ship finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are literally new things happening every day. Like
Yeah.
every day at the NAMM Show, you would be plugging in the USB to get the latest software status, the most modern things, the newest knob tweaks that we could show off, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been talking a bit about Italian mamas. the experts in their fields.
Yeah.
What about the future when it comes to working with other Italian mummers, those experts from the world of amps and effects and even IRs and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Will we be entering into agreements with people like that? And is there anything planned so far that you can speak about, or is that all in the future a bit?
Well, it's mostly in the future, but Henrietta Engineering and the EP booster is on the list because I sorry for forgetting his name. He's such a nice gentleman. I talked with him about his Emerald Prince booster, which is the secret weapon of my friend Mick Woll when it comes to being more Fender than anything else with the AMP1, and I love the pedal. And I talked about the AMP1 and the AMPX here, and getting pedals in there. And I said, you know, I'm not doing any collaborations or anything that is not pleasing both sides. So for me, it's important that that the quality is right, and that it needs to be approved by them. And that's the level. Kevin. Yeah, it's Kevin Henrietta. Sorry, you know, too many faces.
Is it Henrietta or is it Henretta?
I always remember it's maybe Henrietta,
No.
but you know, Henry is something I can memorize easier.
Yeah.
Forgive me. My name is Thomas Blug. You can, you know. Anyway, Blug. I need things like BluGuitar to, and this is makes my life easier. Anyway, the thing is, he understood the concept and he's in for that. Another company that I talked to is Nobles with their pedal, and they know me and we do the same thing, which is great. And I will talk to other even amp guys, but they're still a kind of waiting because they're not seeing if they know me, they know it's coming. But what I showed so far is not even what the whole thing is possible. Sorry guys, it's a show, I have to show something. But the tone stack is a joke and I can get even blah blah blah. Next time, if it's good enough for you, now it's good enough. Where we are at. But you know, the real experts, they want to see a bit more. And that's coming. And when that is out, probably we get some more. So it will take time, but it's definitely an open invitation for other mamas. We are talking sound designers or companies, and we have to find a way how to realize it in a way that we meet. Let me do the stuff with my Nobles friends as they are from Germany first. We have that experience, and then we get the process better. And then, you know, I think the Henrietta pedal is not so difficult. I already had a few experiments up front, and that's probably a good starting point. And then, yeah, there's a long future as I always say, for the next 10 years. I'm expecting highlights every year.
Yeah.
Until most of my universe will be sucked into this USB-C slot here.
Yeah. And so the big two questions that we haven't answered yet this week, although they've been answered elsewhere: how much is it going to cost, and when do you think that the first guys watching this, let's say not in Germany but in different European countries or North America or elsewhere, when are they actually going to be able to play the AMPX for themselves?
Yeah. So how much will it gonna cost? I always say 2,000 because that's the price. Maybe it's 2,055 US dollars, depends on, or it's 1999 because it's the currency rate. and with things going on global markets, we have to find. But it's 2,000 euros. That's my benchmark, and it might end up in dollars. We cheat ourselves a bit, but I try to be. It needs to. It's that kind of direction. Okay, that's the price, and it will. We finally decided when everything is actually ready for shipping in boxes, and the currency rates are there, and the final production price is stated. So I'm not cheating ourselves. I'm not cheating you. Kind of things. Aiming at this 2,000 price, and we will start with the German kind of our country for the end of the year. Why? Because in case we have some issues, we are easily able to fix it. International shipping, it should be 100% proof. Therefore, I always say beginning of next year. And all I can say, I'm hoping, or I'm actually positive about that happening, because we already pre-ordered long lead time components and everything needed for manufacturing. So the parts are already sourced, being at the factory, ready to be mass produced, at least for the first bigger batch. And then of course we have a pre-order list, which gives us a kind of perspective on how things could turn out. If we get a lot of pre-orders, we have to readjust our ramp-up plan, how to meet that. I hope we can, it's a process. It's like, at this point, we say, hello, this is coming. Some people say, I want it now. Other people are still waiting. We have planned our 50 pieces here, 500 pieces then, and then see kind of thing. But if we can already see that it's getting there, we can pre-order the components for that too. And the world is difficult for that. But this is why I talk about all that stuff now, get a feel for it, and heading towards the right direction in numbers, pre-orders, and whatever we do. And that's the good thing about the internet. We're actually talking, and I have a much better feel when I read the comments afterwards.
Yeah.
And if I look at this point, it's a waiting list. So for the guys who really want one, you can write an email at sales@bluguitar.com, and you will end up being with Kai, and he is doing the waiting list. We will have a proper kind of waiting list in the very near future on the website, so it's much easier. At this point, it's just his email. So yeah, that tells us how many guys out there are waiting for that product. And then at the next phase, we turn that in a proper pre-order, and then of course we let you know when it's gonna ship, and that's a good thing. We can kind of talk on that level already. So yeah, so the quick answer now, beginning of next year.
Yeah. And that waiting list's already getting pretty long, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot coming in. That puts even more pressure. I'm actually trying to, for our side, the best is to start not with a big peak, to start slow and then ramp it up. It's like if you have a new motor, if you have like a new project, like this is, you shouldn't go and then crash, and then you don't make the first round, and you end up at the pit stop. For the company, the best would be we had only 5 guys waiting now, and then 50 by September, and then you know, getting 100 to Christmas, and then maybe 150 for whatever. You know what I mean? It's like a very, very smooth ramp up. That's the best for the company. But we have to work with reality. This is what we are talking about it. And that, you know, to prepare in the right thing. In the end, it's about preparing. Um, and if AMPX needs a larger number to be produced, it's good to know. And the sooner the better. That's why we start the whole thing now. I know it's frustrating for you because it's like sitting at the Italian mama and said, I want my schnitzel, I want my pasta, I want my, you know, where's my pizza? You know, it smells so good. But, you know, it's like, okay, you know, we in the kitchen already saying, we need more flour, get some tomatoes in, or, you know, whatever is needed. Does Tante Annie have some tubes left? Or that's kind of thing is. But if there's nobody in the restaurant, you know, we know that we are good with, you know. So this is what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. Just a couple more questions coming in. How will people load sound plugins or blueprints into the AMPX via USB stick?
Yeah, there is a USB-C port here, and we will ship the AMPX with a adapter to a standard USB-A stick, which fits into your computer. And then when you go on to our yet to build platform, My AMPX, that gives you then the window to our AMPX available items, virtual items in the shop, which means effect pedals and amps, maybe presets and stuff. Some of that stuff will be free. Some of the stuff will cost some money. That makes money to fund all these new, exciting, down to detail sounds.
Yeah, yeah. And on that theme, Tapist says, will there eventually be an official list of the included preamps and effects besides the AMP1 channels that we supply? Will that be coming to the website at some point?
At some point, yes, but let me do it first. Then, you know, if I promise you something like right now, it's from my side, it's bullshit. You know, let me do a bunch of amps first, and I always talked about our amps because that's our amp, and I don't think I hurt intellectual property of other companies. So that's a good starting point. And then when we go for more amps, I think there's some stuff that is on the list. My dear friend Euge Valovirta and his bad boy is on both of our waiting list, wish lists. Euge wants his best GCM 800, you know, a happy accident in the Marshall factory. And this is will be one of the amps that I will use as a test for the whole process. Yeah, and so this is on the wish list, and there's a few others, but that's already kind of confirmed. And then I would maybe we put a list up there when things are ready, but it might be disappointing because it's at the beginning the list is not long, and then by the time we ship it's getting longer.
Yeah.
So probably it's better to wait before people go, oh, it's only one amp in there, or it's only one, which is not the case. So I think it will be my pedal board because I need it. So we can put this in there anyway, and that's quite a lot. Which means there's a Boss delay, there's a replex, there needs to be some kind of phaser vibe thing, and there will be standard chorus and blah blah blah. So the bread and butter stuff will be there in there, and amp-wise similar.
Yeah. So we'll add that list as soon as we're ready to make it a
Yeah.
decent list. Yeah.
But the later, the more precise,
Yeah, yeah.
and the less frustrating. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't expect that list to be happening next week and you know everything, because it's
Yeah, Tabis says, fair point. He's just excited. Well, I'm
Yeah,
assuming
as
it's
we
a
all
he.
are.
Apologies if not.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Same here. Hey, I'm excited. You know, thinking about things, and then I'm thinking about stuff that is possible with this concept, even with you guys knowing it, and even without me knowing it. It's like, I can do this. What about this compressor? Maybe that's possible. But that's all stuff I need to try out.
Yeah. Putin just sums it up pretty well, saying, uncooked schnitzel isn't healthy. Make sure it's well done. So take the time to do it right.
Okay, here's a schnitzel story I have to tell you.
I'm getting too hungry making this show. Like, it's almost lunchtime. We haven't eaten today, and we're talking about Italian mamas making great pizza and the schnitzel now.
There's a schnitzel. Lahnstein. Okay, a little story here. Lahnstein is a town near Koblenz. Koblenz, Germany. Koblenz is in between Frankfurt and Cologne. And Johnny Winter, when he was still alive, Johnny Winter, I mean, the man that's blonde, blind, killer player, a little bit too much on drugs because he is from the early days of rock and roll, killer. So with Jimi Hendrix and them all he played. And I had the pleasure of opening up for Johnny Winter in Lahnstein. So the band came in and we were having dinner before Lahnstein. And so as the restaurant was a bit late, we told them to hurry up. And what we got is everybody wanted schnitzel. Okay, keep it easy, make a Schneeposa. Schnitzel, pommes, salad. Pommes is French fries in German.
Yeah.
Schneeposa is the, what you're eating? Schneeposa. Schneeposa ist die Abkürzung.
Abbreviation.
Abbreviation for schnitzel. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we ordered that, and then the dinner came just shortly before the show, and this was exactly what he described. It was frozen on underneath, burnt on the top, and some French fries and salad. Some people loved it. I hated it. But anyway, I had my French fries and some salad, and we did opening up for Johnny Winter, who I actually still met before he died.
Yeah.
Before he passed away. Yeah. Okay, what is the next?
Yeah, there's a question about if there is a pedal or a model of something that someone were to buy as a blueprint, let's say a specific pedal, they really like it. What would be the situation with updates in the future? If you would update the pedal or some kind of an algorithm or whatever, if it was a digital pedal, would that change for them, or would they keep what they bought and then there would be a second version of that pedal? What's the planning there?
I guess it's simpler to just add a new version. Like, for instance, take a Tube Screamer. There was the original Tube Screamer, and then there was this version. Like in hardware, they changed one, and then if you have created your preset with a certain Tube Screamer, for instance, or if you have a Tube Screamer on your pedal board, you maybe your entrance Tube Screamer was a TS9, and then you discovered, oh, I need to have that original 808 with that cheesy chip and the blah 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 impedance output. And then when you get that super expensive vintage pedal onto your pedal board, you readjust the knobs to fit it into your system and thereby make it sound best for you. I believe we will do the same thing and keep the old one in the list, and you get a new one, like make it the new version, and you can swap it in your preset and then readjust to make it work best for you, because you probably have tweaked it to your personal taste as well.
Okay.
That's the way. In the end, it is very easy because it's just data. It will not get lost, and that's the good thing. It's USB, and it's not even much because it's only control data. It's well in the digital age like today, this kind of stuff is a piece of cake.
And what about when it comes to blueprints as a platform? Will there be an option for the guys out there to share blueprints among themselves, or even create their own tones and swap them around? How's that going to work?
Well, the model that I have in mind is you have to buy the blueprints, the special blueprints that are not free from our website, and they cannot be copied because we have some very intelligent copy protection. So another guy who wants to have that same Euge amp has to buy it for himself as well. And that makes it fair, because then many people want that amp, he gets more money, and we have more funds to do it right. Otherwise we would send out one new amp and then everybody copies that amp, and then we charge whatever once and it's gone. Let's say $100, and that's $100 for a whole amp design. Stupid. So what we have to do is to protect that. What you can do, and that's the thing, is all the settings that you can do with this amp, and these settings with this amp are way more sensitive than what we see, and way more original than what we see with profiles, for instance. And you can make your own like settings on that amp. It's like, even on an amp 1, if you look on our BluGuipedia for the tone finder, that amp 1 can sound like a Tweed whatever Bassman 55, it can sound like a GC 8100, it can sound like a Soldano, it can sound like a blah blah blah, to a certain extent. But we've done all these nice sound finder videos with different guitars and amps where I show the settings of the original amp, make A/B switch, and show you my settings here. And most of the people don't get there. That job you can do yourself and put it on our platform and share it, because that kind of data is free, it's open. If you charge somebody money for it, maybe you can. That's not. Let's think about it. If this is on an artist level, you would become a BluGuitar artist, working with the blueprints we offer, but make this your own signature, whatever settings. I mean, all this Jack Wild amps, it's 800s and blah blah blah. It's on that level, easy peasy. And then we could get you on, and people have maybe to pay a little for that, because you've done some work. You created some extra value out of the standard stuff. And if it's exciting, people can buy it, and if it's not exciting, they can leave it. And here's the big thing is, we have a feature, or we will have a feature, I've thought of that people can try it out for a certain, so you can listen and play it yourself with your guitar, that blueprint, before you actually buy it.
So it's like a test phase, effectively.
Yeah, it's a test phase. Maybe we have some distracting noises with a message, buy now, or we can all decide on a noise like your cell phone, the disturbing noise.
If people want that, or a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
or Space Cat. Yeah.
Yeah. We can put this as an audio in there, and when you play your Beat It solo with the original Eddie Van Halen sound, you get Space Cats in between. Sorry for the...
Have you ever heard of that Korg Miku pedal, that Japanese weird cult pedal that makes noises like a Japanese sort of anime character?
I mean, there's...
Could we do that? Or a noise with you saying Saarlandish phrases or something when people play?
In theory, it's possible.
I mean, someone might want it.
Yeah,
Comment below if you do.
With 16-core DSP, there's a lot of bullshit we can do, and we can have audio in there as well, and blah blah blah. by the way, talking about this, there's a JHS pedal with vocal things going on, which I find pretty impressive. But this, oh, if we, I don't know, maybe one day I talk to Josh, and I don't know how he does it. I think it's done analog, which is even more bizarre.
I haven't heard about this, but
It's excited me.
yeah. Okay, cool. Michelle says, when will there be a more in-depth review or walkthrough of the AMPX?
I would say that we do it slowly but surely in pieces, and you have two choices. Either you join our live stream like on a regular basis and you see some progress as it comes along, or you wait for the moment when you are ready to ship and tell people this is the package you get. And this will of course include then the industry standard demo thing with the glossy, maybe I or somebody or we play different styles from country to western, from jazz to metal and in between, and then all the cliche stuff. Here's your Purple Rain, but it'll do to Highway to Hell, and then Angus Malcolm, and what else is on the list? Nile Rodgers, Clean, and then there will be Gojira. I'm not doing that, but somebody can do that part. I mean, this video we can see when it's getting colder in Germany, September-ish, when we have some sounds for that. Yeah, so two options for you guys. Wait and get the full video in short, or if you're curious, join in the Academy of Tone on our weekly basis or whenever you have time and see what is there. Maybe we make a category in the Academy of Tone, like the weekly progress or something, what's going on, and then announce if there's any audible things or just talking things, so you don't waste your too much time with that. You simply wait. The best recipe is practice the guitar and wait. Christmas is coming. Maybe that's a good thing. I promise you something for Christmas in that direction.
That's a nice promise, yeah.
Yeah.
And as a final thing, guys, we do have the BluGuipedia knowledge base platform where we will constantly be adding bits of information, answers to the questions that you guys are asking here, because I can see now that we're starting to get questions coming in from guys who joined the stream later, and maybe we already answered them earlier. So it's like, go on to bluguitar.com, check out the knowledge base, and a lot of the questions will be answered there, and everything else we cover on a flowing weekly basis on the live stream until Christmas or whenever it's going to be when the big one comes.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have deadlines, and I like the idea of having events. I mean, we did the NAMM, it's like, hey guys, this thing has to work. Of course, it's not finished, but it works. And that's, bam. So, and then that kind of video is there for Christmas, bam. And then, there's a deadline that everybody has to work towards. That puts some pace to the team.
Yeah.
I see you won. On an X.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, well, this is prototype 1,
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly, yeah.
And 2 is back in Germany.
Almost. It's on the way, isn't it?
Yeah, I gave it to Kai.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot of things.
Yeah. Very, very quickly, yes, there will be a tuner in it. Yes, there will be a looper in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, please continue with.
Yeah. Jürgen Scholz, I see here. Hey guys, you just stumbled on your chat. Great to see you're going. Yeah, I mean, Jürgen Scholz is another AMP1 user back in Germany from like Hamburg. Great singer too. Hello Jürgen. I haven't seen the chat yet. There's some new names. Giffy Mauderer. Sounds German Austrian to me. Publish the pre-order link on your website. Yeah, see, the pre-order link we will publish on the website soon as Kai gets back he's on the plane like this afternoon here, and then he will probably by next week it's on the website.
Yeah.
Up until then, there's the email sales@bluguitar.com to drop him an email, and then we'll have a proper thing on the website hopefully next week.
Yep. And I did type the address in the chat earlier, sales@bluguitar.com, so you can copy and paste it from there if you want to send an email.
There's Ian Tulloch.
Ian Tulloch, I would say.
Tulloch, okay. When Wawa will available, well, the Wawa is an easy peasy one. I think it works already, but I haven't have the time to try it out. I have a bunch of great wahs. I will take some time and get a wah going. It's also part of the let's make sure the expression communication works.
Yeah.
That's the bigger point. I have to talk to the software guys if that's implemented yet. But no worries about wah. And it will be analog and thereby fast like hell.
Yeah.
And sounds great. Kevin Kramer, hey Kevin. Another guy, der, hey Thomas, du kannst gerne meine 66er Fender Tone Master Head und meinen blauen Quitrock haben und sie. Then there's, I visited him one. He has I like that his amp, this especially the Splawn, and we did a little A/B test once with the Mercury, being in the zone but not quite there, but kind of not that far. I knew what to modify on the Mercury to get to this closer to the Splawn. There are some, that's great to have people offering their amps, because they want those sounds, and we all want those sounds, and that's the good news. We can share them on that platform.
Yep.
But bear with me, I have many friends and I have many amps, and it's only one life. But I reduced my life to and dedicated to this project here, and that's what I'm doing the next years.
Yeah.
Manny Cewe can do the Gojira when he is demo. Yes, Manny can do that. Yep, Helmut guitar. I think the single point mic worked better than the personal body mics. Oh, really? Is it that good?
The funny thing is, we're literally talking into Thomas's iPhone, which is
like this is the
about
distance
6 feet away from us.
It's like my arm.
And we're outside, and there are people mowing their lawns and fixing the road out there and stuff. And
you, it sounds good for you. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed. Okay, so good to know, because that means I can do more live streams like that in the future. I always had the feeling like, man, we have to go to the studio to do a proper thing that people enjoy watching. At this point, the video seems a little bit blurry. I hope it's better for you guys.
That's just our resolution on the screen now.
Ah, okay, so we are low res.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, that makes me happy, because I feel a little bit like, man, maybe it's it's not the best quality.
Yeah.
So any more questions? Guys, I've heard you asked before, would you do quality padded zip back? Yes. Okay. We will have the same kind of concept with a bag coming with the unit. The cheapest way would be not ship with a bag and have a plastic bag. And I think, everybody has enough of those plastic bags that go into the trash bin, and it's not environmental friendly and not useful at all. So I thought, yes, let's have our same idea with like AMP1 bags, which is something like this for those who don't know. But I would love to improve those, and I already requested. So the padding here has a certain thickness, and for the AMP1 it's okay, and the corners here are okay for amp 1, but with a bigger size of amp X, it's getting wobbly. And so I already made drawings how to improve that. We had the first sample that was not quite it yet, but see, this is what's iteration 1, 2, 3, and yeah, they have to stiffen and straighten and do things to it to make it, you know, good enough for the AMPX. We still will have that little extra compartment. It might get handy with it because the unit has a little, I can show you, it is it's higher on that side than it's on that side. So, and if the compartment is here, you can put actually cables in there. I'm not trying to overdo it. Maybe some people can create some leather stylish things and make it whatever, $100 accessory, which is nice for a Christmas present in 2025. But we will ship it with something that is simply practical and usable. So that's the plan. And it shall come with something like the M1 Iridium that shows you what to do, and the final instructional manual will be online. Why? Because then we have the chance to update it in a way so it's the best information for you to you know, if you write an instruction manual, which I already did for that amp, it has changes while doing it. And then maybe we have future changes as well. And then if it's printed on paper, it gets outdated like way too fast, especially for such a product.
Yeah.
And then therefore it's great to have the one online, and then maybe if there's a fundamental difference, we can make a note there as like, this is how it is for these, and then this is how it is for that. And but yeah, it can be improved. That's the idea.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
I think we are hungry.
We are, and we've been going on for 2 hours, so that's a good time to call it a day.
You have the outro on your phone, just for.
I can try and get it in, unless you'd like to go with a special Space Cat outro.
Well, we never know. We have options here, and you know what? You couldn't see my beautiful BluGuitar. For those.
So, someone commented and asked, why is the BluGuitar in a tree?
Well, the tree holds the guitar. That's why. And you know the good thing about we have no speaker here, but the good thing about my BluGuitar is like, I don't know what. The same strings that I had on back in Germany, I didn't even tune the guitar. I just had my magic take the neck off trick, put it in my suitcase, traveled with it, put it back on, had it all the trade shows, had to tighten the truss rod, and I think it did a very good job. And probably the guitar is better than ever when I'm home because of the stuff that happened to the guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, the outro is teed up.
It's teed up. So I think we will see each other next week.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.
Please give the video a like, subscribe
Right.
to the channel if you're still here, because that really does help us.
Yeah. And is this the fun? Can you start?
Yeah, I'll just go around here.
Okay.
And then.
And I wave you bye-bye. And this is the new and doodle-doodle-doo, and all these nice new features. See you again next week, same time, same place. Cheers.